As a professional pet photographer, there is certain gear that I always have packed in my camera bag, whether I'm here at the studio or on location. Today we're going to dive into my bag and I'm going to show you what I have and why I have it. So Monique here of Silver Paw Studio, founder of ProPetPhotog. Oh my gosh, it's so heavy. Oh gosh. This is a Tenba camera bag that I don't think is on the market anymore. I like it because it's extra deep. I do have a dedicated video all about this camera bag. If you want to look at it, I'll give you a link to that. All right. So I'm going to try to make this really succinct. If you are just starting out, you don't need specifically this gear, but these are the pieces of gear that I recommend. You'll understand in a second. First of all, my camera body is the Sony A1. Now, this is the beast from Sony. You don't have to go crazy and get the A1. I got it because I need it for my pet photography, my pet videography, and for wildlife. Lots of great things about this camera, but this is the A1. It's a full frame mirrorless camera. Really love this. I updated this about 1.5 years ago. And oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. I have no problem with any of the Sony mirrorless cameras. I had the Sony a7R III. For wildlife, I also have the Sony a9 II. It's only 24 megapixels, but it's very fast. And a7R IV that my husband uses for landscape, not as fast. This A1 seemed to check all the boxes for me. Photo, video, really fast. The files aren't too big or too small. Love, love, love my Sony A1. And almost always I have the 70-200 on here. Now this is the version 1. There is a version 2 that's come out. I'm saving up for that because it's supposed to be 25% lighter, which would be amazing. Like, look at this. This is a bit of a beast. It's kind of heavy. I don't know how many pounds. I'd have to look it up, 2.5? I'm not sure, but it's heavy, trust me. But this is my workhorse lens, especially on location where you can really back up, you can compress the background when you have a lot of great natural areas. This is so good, and this is a 2.8. So I can get the full range of a full body of a dog all the way into a headshot with hardly even moving on location. I cannot live without my 70-200 2.8 lens. Yes, it's super heavy, but I've got the foot set up where I can move the foot around to help support. Either way, whether I'm shooting horizontally or vertically, I just pivot the foot. So I've learned ways to work with this lens. This is my go-to. Absolutely love this lens. And when I'm in the studio, I even use this lens. But I'm going to show you next the other lens that I use. Now, no matter what camera system you have, I do recommend you get a full frame when you can and a 70-200 2.8. There are a lot of great lens options. Some people like fixed lenses, all that kind of stuff. But for me, this works amazing. I might be going on location somewhere with 3 dogs, 5 dogs, 1 dog in a huge field or in a park. This is so versatile. So that's my go-to kit for the lens, camera and body. The other lens I carry with me all the time now is the Sony 24-70 2.8 version 2. I had the Tamron version of this for a little while. Did not like it. Didn't work out for me. I even did a whole review kind of trying to decide between which ones. And what happened was the Tamron version just cannot focus in lower light. It has such a hard time. I was missing way too many shots. So I ended up finding this on the open box at Best Buy. So you can get some of these lenses on open box or used, and a lot of places sell these certified. This 24-70, I never thought I would be a 24-70 shooter because I'm outside so much. But since I've gotten studio space, I really love this lens. This is usually my go-to lens here in the studio. I do use this on location, especially if I want to show more of the space, or maybe they're running towards me and I just want a little bit more room to focus. With the longer lens, they have to be further back to focus, and if it's a smaller space, this works. Surprisingly, the wide end, the 24 mil, works in most of the indoor locations I'm at too. So if I'm photographing someone's pet in their home, this lens works too. And so this is replaced is my Tamron 17 to 28 2.8 lens. I do like this, but it is almost too wide. So I'm cropping in way too much if I happen to catch that shot when they're across the field. In the studio, too much of the background shows unless I'm very, very close to the subject. And sometimes you need to be a little bit further back if they're unsure, whatever the situation is. This lens just ended up being too wide. So I almost never carry this anymore. Where I use this is when I'm using my camera on a gimbal for video work. And a lot of that work is inside. So if you're not doing video work yet, I strongly recommend you at least try it. Push that red record button. But if you find yourself inside, like veterinary offices, doggy daycares, things like that, or in tight spaces to do portrait sessions of some kind, this wide lens might work better for you. But I find I'm just really not even packing it anymore. This has been on my shelf since I got the 24 to 70. We do use this for landscape, but this comes to the portrait studio. So really my bag is down to just these two lenses. That's it, the 70 to 200 and the 24-70. I am not missing that wide at all. Somehow the Tamron wider lens has no trouble focusing. So it's been fine, absolutely fine. So in a sense, I have the trifecta, right? You might notice that at the bottom of my camera, I've got this funky little nib here and here. Another thing I never leave home without, I actually have two of these, is my spider holster. Now this isn't camera or lighting gear, but this holds everything up. So instead of setting my camera down here in the studio or out on location, and then we're trying to remember where I put it, because I do that a lot, I just throw it on my hip. So you've seen me out on location. If you've watched these videos on this channel for a while, if you have, thank you so much. If not, maybe consider subscribing, follow along. So what happens is I've got this belt with this nice metal track, and the camera just goes in there like that. Usually I have it down like this, goes in there, and then just hangs off of my hip. If I don't have that lens on, I also have the nib on the camera. You'll see a lot of wedding photographers use this, but this is amazing for pet photography. Yes, love, love, love my spider holster and the little connections. Now, as far as other camera gear in here, the only other camera that I have in here is a GoPro. This is invaluable for marketing materials. Get some behind the scenes. Now, right now, I have mine on this little stand, and this is just another connector for my backpack, which I don't use very much anymore. But here's how I set it up. This GoPro comes off of this stand and slips into the hot shoe of my camera. And then when I'm trying to film some behind the scenes, I don't have to do anything else except press record, and it's on the top of my camera and sees POV of what I'm doing. So really, really easy. I'll show you how it sets up real quick right here. So this piece goes on the bottom. Any GoPro. You could buy old GoPros at this point for so inexpensive. This is the Hero 10. I also have the, sorry, it goes like this. I also have the Hero 7 Black. I think you can get that camera for like 200 bucks now. You can also get one of these little hot shoe mounts for your phone. I use my phone with the Dog Sounds app, and it's really just too big and floppy and bulky, so I don't like using my phone. And I don't want to get text messages or anything during a session, so I put my phone away except for the Dog Sounds app, and this goes right here. I know this sounds weird, okay? But when you go to market yourself, it's good to have behind the scenes footage of your sessions, of you having fun, of turning chaos into art. That funny thing the dog did that you didn't quite get a picture of, you can show that in a marketing video later. So really, really fast and easy when I'm about to do photos in like a certain area of where I'm at, just click record and you got it. You don't need to go through anything that's going to make them feel self-conscious at the session. You just say, hey, I'm going to film some behind the scenes. Is that okay? And that's built into my agreements anyway. People already know it's coming. So I know it's weird, but having that GoPro for behind the scenes, and typically at the end, I'll take it off the top of my camera and just try to get some footage of, you know, the dog or the cat up close here in the studio or on location, and you just have that footage to use for later. Trust me, if you've been looking for an excuse for a GoPro, there you go. All right, just a couple more things in here. I have a speed light. Always carry a speed light, even when I'm going outside, gotta have a speed light. So this is just the Flashpoint Zoom R2. Yeah, this is S for Sony. So TTL and manual. And so I like this because it's got the controller here. Here, I can just turn it on. This goes on top of my camera when I'm using flash. And it controls a whole bunch of these if I had more than one, but it also controls my studio lights, which I have 2 of these Flashpoint Explorer 600s that I use in my studio. And I will also take those on location to a client's home. I will take both. I have to have a backup. Where'd it go? So I always bring a speed light, and I always bring the Flashpoint 600. I gotta have a backup. So always have backups of your equipment of some kind. These speed lights are very inexpensive. You could do the same thing with 3 speed lights or 2 speed lights. Have one or 2 or 3 with you at all times and have the rechargeable batteries ready to go. Very valuable. What was I gonna show you? The last thing, let's see. And of course I have a bag full of batteries and a card carrier, that kind of thing. But that's my main camera equipment. Also for lighting, you need to bring a reflector. So this is just my 5-in-1. And honestly, Frank usually brings his, which is even bigger. So Frank is always manning, Frank is my assistant, either a speed light or the reflector for me. So that's what I've got that comes to every single session. To recap, I have my main camera, the Sony A1, the 70-200 2.8 lens. The other lens I use a lot is the 24-70 2.8 Sony lens. I also always bring one of my GoPros to put up here for behind the scenes. And for lighting, I have the little Flashpoint Flash, which is the same brand as the Flashpoint 600s, Godox brand, and the controller for it, and the spider holster. So that is my bare minimum kit. And that's really a lot of what I need. So you don't have to get the Sony brand, but these are ones that I highly recommend to look at that full frame camera and 2 main lenses to start with, and maybe a couple speed lights and a reflector, and you'll be good to go. All right. So that's a peek inside the bag of a professional pet photographer that goes on location and in studio here. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, type them in the comments below. I'd love to have you join us for a lot of behind the scenes footage we have, a lot of stuff about being a pro pet photographer, all kinds of great community in here. So I invite you to subscribe and join us on this fun journey that we do. We have the best job ever. All right, until next time, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATSs.